Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all across the fruited plains. It is May 1st, 2023, here in beautiful Raleigh, North Carolina. Hope wherever you're calling in from this evening is lovely and going fantastic for you, your family, and also your business. You have joined a meeting this evening called The Psychology of the Sale, and I'm your host, Gary Keith, also known as the doctor of insurance. I think I've earned that right and that title with being in this business now for 30 years. I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in it, but I love it. I wouldn't do anything else. I wouldn't think about doing anything else because of the blessing that it has been for me, for my family, and for many, many people in my community. I tell you, it has blessed so many lives. I get calls all the time from beneficiaries and from family members saying, thank you so much for helping my mom and my dad, my brother, my sister get a life insurance policy. It made a huge difference in our lives. What other business can you think of that you could do for a living and people are calling you to thank you years down the road for helping them? I'm going to tell you, it's one of the most rewarding businesses, not only financially, but just emotionally and psychologically, and just with all the happy chemicals that you can think of. So I truly, truly enjoy this business. And so welcome tonight to the Psychology of Sale. This is where we get a little bit deeper than just words that you say from a piece of paper or from a script. I help you understand the why you're saying those words and the what to say and then the how to say it. Those three things can make a big difference in your presentation. You and I both know this. We've attended some schooling along the way. We've listened to some professors along the way. We've gone to listen to some maybe preachers and teachers and other type of people who've been giving us lessons or sermons. And some people we just cannot register with because their voice may be monotone. They may be speaking too low. There may be no passion behind it, no enthusiasm with it. They didn't enunciate, pronunciate. They didn't elongate. They didn't pause at certain places. All those things can play a factor. And so the psychology of the sale teaches you why Miss Betty buys, why Mr. Billy buys, what motivates him or her to take action today. This is what the psychology of the sale is all about. So as I've said many times before, if you're taking notes, please do. One dull pencil is better than two sharp minds. But this is also being, you thought that was funny, right, Lorraine?
Yes. Sorry, I forget you can see me. Dang it.
No, I'm glad to have you because I need some feedback. All I'm seeing is a bunch of blank spaces out here, like I'm talking to nothing. Funny. So
we're listening. We're listening.
Okay, great. So I learned that a long time ago, and so I became an avid note taker. You become an avid note taker, you become serious in life. I'm telling you. And I take a lot of notes. I go back and review a lot. I memorize a lot. I kind of formulate things a lot. So I think it's important to become an avid note taker and you review your notes on a regular basis. So get your notes out, note taking devices, and take the notes because this is very important. I've said this before, but we've got some new faces on here. People will forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. This is so critical in the psychology of the sale. This is why people buy. They buy an emotion typically, and they back it up or solidify it or justify it with logic. But they buy an emotion. They buy on emotion. Never forget that, no matter what you're saying. Secondly, people love to buy, but hate to be sold. Have you written that down before? I've said it several times. I want that to come like water out off a duck's back when you think about selling. People love to buy, but hate to be sold. How in the world can I create a buying atmosphere? What must I do or what am I not doing? There's the big $1 million question. If you're not closing sales on a consistent basis, a regular basis, on a high-end basis, that's because you create a buying atmosphere. You create a selling atmosphere, instead of a buying atmosphere. People love to buy, but hate to be sold. So what are you going to do to be able to create that buying atmosphere so it's really not even a sale at all? They waltz right into the close. They look at the numbers. They're almost taking it away from you. That's the psychology of the sale. That's different than memorizing a script. That's understanding what's going on in the mind of your prospect. That's understanding their body language. We talked about that before. I'm just doing a
Buddy.
kind of a brushing
Hey,
up,
brother.
if you will.
I'm just letting you know, I just got home from work. I gotta go home and help kids with their homework.
I just muted Rob Appel. Yes, I have power over here. I'm like the Wizard of Oz. I have control of this thing. So anyway, what I was trying to say, and I forgot what I was saying, but people love to buy, but hate to be sold. So your words, your tones, being able to read your client, knowing what their eyebrows are saying to you, knowing what their mouth is saying to you without even saying a word, how they turn it up, turn it down, what their body's doing when they lean forward or lean back, what their arms are doing, all these things is language. Now, I shared with you before, 93% of communication is nonverbal. That's incredible. That is absolutely amazing when you think about that. That's not Gary that come up with this. This is people who are pros in reading people in psychology and learning body language and demeanors. This isn't me. So if that's the case, and I've been married to the same woman for 40 years, I better see some thumbs up on this thing out here and some people going hip hip hooray. People don't even stay married for 40 days anymore. So 40 years, that's pretty big. So what you learn to do in relationships, in my personal opinion, you learn to read what's not being said to make relationships work a long time. Now, I'm not saying everybody's right for everybody. I'm not some sort of marriage doctor or marriage counselor. I'm not Dr. Phil. I'm not that person, okay? But I do know something about relationships. I raised 8 children. I raised 8 teenagers.
Wow.
That's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yes.
But I still have a little bit of hair. It's not much, but it's going fast. I have more hair on my face and chin. It's amazing how I can grow it here, but I can't grow it here. That's another topic. But either way, you have to learn how to read teenagers. Now, I'm not the world's most greatest, parent, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. But I raised 4 boys and 4 girls, and all of them are different, as you all know. And their hormones are all over the place when they're teenagers. And they're here today, they're up today, and they're down tomorrow, and they got all these things going in their life, and the world's crashing in on them. And as a parent, if you can't learn to read that, what's not being said, because oftentimes teenagers will shut up and just clamor up on you and won't say a word. They try to shut you out of their world somewhat. How can you open that up? How can you read that language? How do you know what they're saying when they're not saying anything? Those are things we want to know in the psychology of the sale with your clients when you meet with them on a regular basis. When you look at Miss Betty's face, you knock on the door and it looks like her place is on fire. You need to know how to read that. And so be able to give the proper responses back to it. Well, you just caught me at a bad time right now, and I'm telling you, right now is not a good time for me. What's your statement? What are you going to do? Are you going to get up in her face too and buck up? And are you going to come back with some sort of fast words and like you're angry as well? Or are you going to take the other approach and become kind and soft-spoken? No worries, Miss Betty. I'm sorry I caught you at a wrong bad time. And you smile. So you do things like that by reading body language, reading what's not being said, and you'll get better at closing sales on a high level. Remember, people will forget what you say. They'll never forget how you made them feel. So for those of you that are new to this call, in this class, I call this a classroom. It's a workshop. On Monday nights, we come together and we learn how to dot the I's, cross the T's, fine-tune the presentation that you're learning. Each one of you are learning a presentation right now that starts out by kicking off with the warm-up or rapport. If you studied my stuff so far, and I got videos that I can send out to you, as well as you can go back and listen to the previous recordings of the weeks before. I call it connectivity. That's deeper, in my opinion, than warm-up or rapport. Connectivity is different. Everybody communicates, but very few connect. So what we're trying to figure out is not just be babbling words to Miss Betty when we come into her house, although words will come out of her mouth, but how do you connect with her on her level? How do you walk a mile in her shoes? How does she feel like that you can relate to her on her level? That's how you do presentations when you figure that out. And so when I was selling long-term care insurance to people with lots of assets, that connection was different than Miss Betty, who maybe is just struggling to make ends meet on Social Security with very few assets. So how do you become that chameleon? How do you change and relate to the high end, the low end, the middle? That's understanding your market. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. What do you know about the final expense market? What makes them tick? What time do they get up? What time do they go to bed? What do they watch on TV? What do they like to eat? What's their background? What kind of work do they do? What's their family like? What's longevity like to them? What's their kids, grandkids, family? What's their occupation like? What is their recreation like? What do they do? What do you know about your market? And if you go back and listen to my previous recordings, I spent a whole segment on the market itself, learning your market, learning what makes Miss Betty tick. Now, last week, I sent out something about Jerry Springer. Rest in peace, he passed away. But when you go in a lot of these seniors' homes with Miss Betty, she's playing reruns of Jerry Springer. How do I know that? I've been in hundreds of homes, and Miss Betty's got Jerry Springer blasting. I can relate to that because I've seen it many times and I know what's going to do. And I just jump right in there and start laughing and watching the show briefly with Miss Betty. And then I'll ask her to be okay if we turn that down a little bit so we can get started. I know she loves the Western Channel. I know she loves The Price is Right. I know she loves watching soap operas. I mean, I know these things because I've seen a lot of Miss Betty's and that's what they have on. So I know my market. I understand what they're about. You want to learn your market. That brings us back up to what we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, which is building a credibility statement. Ladies and gentlemen, men and women, boys and girls, to me, I've been selling my whole life. This is the crux. This is the most important part of the presentation. Why? Because people aren't buying a product. What? Why am I in their house then? Why they send this card back in? What do you mean they aren't buying a product? Nope, they're not. They're buying YOU. They're buying you. They don't know American Amicable from a man in the moon. They don't know who Baltimore Life is if you drove them up to the home office and dropped them off there and let them take a tour. They barely know who Mutual of Omaha is. And the only reason why Miss Betty knows that, she grew up watching The Wild Kingdom with Marlon Perkins as a kid, as a young person, sponsored by Mutual of Omaha. She knows that name, that's it. Miss Betty and Mr. Billy are buying you. If they don't buy you, here's what you're going to hear at the end of the presentation. Well, that sounds pretty good, but do you mind if we think about it? That's a telltale sign in they're going to buy some insurance. They're just not going to buy it from you. They didn't trust you. They didn't like you. They didn't believe you. They didn't respect you. Something about you. Now, everybody in the sales world wants to say, well, the price was too high, or it wasn't what they needed, or I caught them at the wrong time, or the timing was bad. They're going to blame everything else in the world except themselves. I know. I lived this for years in the beginning until I learned and understood that they buy me, not anything else. Oh, it's got to be pretty decent. I mean, it's got to be respectable. It's got to be competitive, but they're buying you. Even if it costs more money, if they buy you, they'll pay it. Why? Because you brought value to them as an individual. That's why your words, your language, your demeanor, everything has got to center around them buying you, you creating credibility. So here's the steps of the presentation for those of you that are new. You're going to start out with what a lot of people call warm up and rapport. Don't underestimate that. Don't push it. Don't rush it, because Miss Betty will tell you everything you need to know. You're going to become a good detective. by asking a lot of questions and closing your mouth. This is not about you talking about all the trophies you've won in your life, all the awards you've won in your life, how great you are in life, although I know you're great, and so we all are. This is not the time. You want to throw in a few things. Oh, Miss Betty, you have 4 boys and 4 girls. Miss Betty, I do too. That's interesting. We got that in common. I might throw some little things in like that to show that commonality. Oh, your parents worked at the Burlington Mills clothing factory industry up here. You know what? My brother worked there for a while. I might throw that in, but this is about Miss Betty and Mr. Billy. I want to hear them, and they'll uncover and tell you everything's going to make them buy during what you call warm up and rapport, which I call connectivity. Connectivity. And for those that are taking notes, just to refresh, there's 4 areas of the connectivity that you want to cover, and use the word form, FORM, as a, gosh, I'm having a brain freeze, it's been a long day, as an acronym. That's the word I'm looking for, acronym. Form, FORM, stands for family, occupation, recreation, and money. That's what you're looking for during your connectivity stage. And go back and listen to my previous recordings. I'll talk about how to get in depth with that. But today is the next step. Once you get done with that connectivity stage, have a bridge, have a transition. Miss Betty, goodness gracious, I could talk about your family, your kids, your grandkids all day long. I really could. They're amazing. You're wonderful. But I realize you have places to go, people to see, and things to do. So let me get started here. That's my bridge. You've got your bridge, your transition into what I call the most important part of the presentation, where Miss Betty is going to buy me right here. Either she's going to buy me right here, or Mr. Billy is, or they're not buying anything because I'm not moving forward until they buy me. At least I sense it through their body language. You can tell it, you'll hear it, and you'll feel it. How many of you so far have started writing out your personal credibility statement? Give me a thumbs up in the chat or some sort of motion in the chat if you started writing your personal credibility statement yet. Anybody? If you want to close at a high level, you're going to have to take the time to write out. Bonita has and it's a work in progress. You don't maybe accomplish that overnight. It may take you weeks to fine tune it, to get it down the way you want it, but at least get started on it. Joe has started. Excellent. This is something you write on paper until you get it down to where you're using now voice inflections, impact words, impact phrases. If you learn nothing else from me ever, please put together a personal credibility statement in whatever you're selling in life. It's going to separate you from everybody else with whatever else you're selling, because nobody does it. This is where, remember, people forget what you say. They'll never forget how you made them feel. This is the feeling part, the connection, the heart to heart, the soul to soul, the spirit to spirit, the mind to mind. Great. Joe just has a tweak. He has excellent, brother, and then practice saying it. Perfect. That's what you want. Because now what you're going to do is when you look in the mirror and you're going to practice this, or look at your spouse or someone, it's going to be a little bit more difficult with them. But when you get ready to show this to Miss Betty, you're ready, because this is where the feeling comes, the emotion comes. So before I jump into the presentation, I jump into this. Miss Betty, gosh, I could talk about your family long. You got amazing kids and grandkids, but I know you got places to go, people to see, and things to do. Actually, she really doesn't. You're probably her entertainment for the week. But I say the truth. I mean,
It is true.
Yeah, most of these seniors are not doing anything, watching TV. So,
Yeah.
but so I say it anyway, Miss Betty, and then I go into this thing, and I go into that credibility statement, which several of you have already heard me say. But I want to do it again because it's so important for you to get this down. It really is. As you notice, I've stopped here for several weeks because the rest of the presentation really doesn't matter if they haven't bought you. There are 5 reasons people don't buy. You ready for it? 5 reasons people don't buy. Number 1 is no trust. That's a biggie. That's what we're covering right here, right now. Secondly, is no need. They buy for no need. Number 3, no urgency. Number 4, no value. And then number 5, no money. All righty, so there's your 5 reasons people don't buy. The most important reason of those 5 is the no trust. It's where people get to think about it, objections, and to put objections. Let me sleep on it. Let me think about it. Let me pray on it. Let me check with some people. Let me call around and let me get back with you. That's saying to you, that's a signal that says, I didn't create enough credibility. When you walk into that door, Miss Davies, Mr. Billy, you have about that much value in their eyes. But you have this much of a dollar sign in their eyes. All they can see in with you is that you're a salesperson, want to get their money, their bank account, their checkbook, and their wallet. That's what they see. Your value is so small, they can barely see it. Why? Because of previous experiences. Someone was a jerk. Someone treated them wrongly. Someone sold them the wrong thing. Someone wouldn't leave their house. Someone talked too fast. Someone was in it for the wrong reason. Someone was in the wham bam thinking man business. So in their brain, they said, based on my prior experiences, all salespeople are the same, and they got very little value to me. That's why you get resistance on the phone, at the door, when you walk in the house. That's why, prior experiences. Your job is to take that great big dollar sign and make it like this, shrink as you're going through your presentation. And your value sign to do this. It's so much value, the prospect is going, they're salivating. They're like, and you're going to hear things like, how do we get this going? What will it take to get one of these? How soon can I put something like this in place? Would it be okay if we put my daughter down as beneficiary, even before you show the numbers? I like having everything set up on an automatic bank account. If we decide to do this, can we do that? Those are words that you start to hear where you create a buying atmosphere instead of a selling atmosphere, and your value's gotten here and your cost has gotten here. It's a mental shift, and we all do it. When you go into a car lot to buy a car, and even though you're just kicking the tires, shopping around, what do? They get your senses involved, not just your eyes, not just your ears, but they get your smell involved. Think about that for a moment when you go in to sit into a new car. You just start feeling euphoric, like, oh, and then they have you feel it by driving it. And you're going down the road, then they have you do some visualization. You see yourself in it. You're playing with all the gadgets. You're putting the window back up top, the sunroof. Your hair is blowing through it. All of these sensations are going on. You visually see yourself owning it. You smell it, you feel it, you hear it, you see it, touch it. You got everything going. Here's your challenge with life insurance sales. You can't touch it. You can't smell it. You can't hear it. So you have got to be able to create these through words, through stories, and through visualizations for your prospect. Isn't that amazing? Think about it. This is an intangible product. How are you going to do that? Stories. You got to be able to paint the picture. That's how you create that buying atmosphere. That's how you create so much value. Your client is going, wow. And they're salivating, and they're not even tasting or smelling anything, but your words created it so strongly, they got to own it. This is your credibility statement. Can you do that? So I go, Miss Beatty, I could talk about you all day long. Your kids and family, blah, blah. I know you got places to go, people see, things to do. But let me go and get started, Miss Betty, so I won't keep you all day long. All right. Let me first of all begin by saying, Miss Betty, that this is what I do full time for a living. I've dedicated my life to helping people get things in place before it's too late. This is eye to eye, soul to soul, belly to belly. Now watch the impact words that I'm using. Okay. This is what I do full time for a living. So I don't want her to think I'm part-timing it. I'm in this thing kind of haphazardly. Then I use the word like, I've dedicated my life to helping people get things in place before it's too late. I'm already starting to create a sense of urgency. I've also used a real big impact word, which is dedicated. This generation knows something about a handshake meant something, that they didn't need a contract. If they told you they're going to do something, they did it. So that generation understands that. So I'm using words and language that they know. Dedication. Remember, you can become the doctor of insurance, but you can't show that plaque on the wall like you do when you go into your regular doctor's office. So you have to visually create your credibility. No one's walking in your office. So you got to create it for them. I've dedicated my life to helping people get things in place before it's too late, Miss Betty. Now, Miss Betty, listen, I'm licensed by the state of North Carolina. Now I'm putting myself with the state of North Carolina. So I'm kind of borrowing some credibility. These programs here, Miss Betty, are approved by the state of North Carolina. So I'm using the state to help me back up some of my credibility. All righty. Now that I go, Miss Betty, of course, we never know what tomorrow brings. So these things are designed to help you get things in place before it's too late. Now, I hope you live to be 100, Miss Betty, but we don't know what tomorrow brings, do we? So I'm creating that sense of urgency, but I'm also trying to create some longevity. And here's what these seniors will do a lot of times. Man, from your lips to God's ears, that I'm going to live to 100. Amen. I claim it. This is important for you. Why? Because as a detective, Miss Betty's sitting there at 62 years of age. She's already got 20,000 in place. And she's thinking in her mind, I'm good. I got plenty of insurance. But she told me she hopes to live to be 100. Between the difference of 62 to 100 is 38 years. What's going to happen to the cost of burials, cremations, and funeral expenses and final expenses? They're going to skyrocket. She also told me during my warm-up period that her parents lived through the mid-80s. That's another 20-some years from where she is. So all these things in the back of my head is I'm creating my detective work, but I'm also formalizing my presentation, what angle I'm going to go. I hope I live to be 100. So she gets down the road and goes, well, I'm not even sure I need this, Gary, because I got 20,000 already in place. Well, no worries, Miss Betty. You're the fastest growing age group in our country right now is 80 and over. And Miss Betty, earlier we thought you're going to live to be 100 because your parents are in the mid 80s, and you claim that, right? Absolutely. So we've got to project and plan on this thing. You live at age 100. 20,000 is good today. It's a good foundation. So I've got all these things. I'm ready. I'm building up some ammunition for down the road. I'm creating this in my credibility statement. Hopefully it'll be 100. We don't know what tomorrow brings. And then I go, this is really important right here. And Miss Betty, do you know what the best part about my job? So side note, one of the best things you can do is learn how to do what I call rhetorical questions. It keeps people's attention. It snaps them out of the daze they may be in, or they may be unfocused or looking at something else. You know what the best part about my job is, Miss Betty? The best part about my job is when your daughter Mary. Where did I learn Mary's name? During my connectivity stage, my warm-up period. You got 2 daughters and 2 sons? Who are they? Oh, Mary lives in Texas. Oh, and John lives in Delaware. And Rebecca lives in California. And John lives in Georgia. Okay. Well, it sounds like they're kind of spread out. But which one connects with you the most or calls you the most? Mary does? Okay. I know what usually the daughters do, Miss Betty. That's in my connectivity stage. So guess whose name I'm going to be using all throughout this presentation? No longer is it going to become, well, whoever your beneficiary is, or whoever you decide to leave this money to, or whoever's going to call us down the road. No, 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 no.
Mhm.
The psychology of the sale says you make this personal. That's where people buy, because now they can see it and feel it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it. You're getting their vision, all their senses involved. So the best part about my job is when your daughter Mary is going to call me down the road and she's going to say, understand my mom had a policy with you, Gary. We need to use it. Pause that for just a second. Let that just sink in. Think of the dynamics of what I just said there. That part of the presentation is assuming the sale even before we've even shown anything. The best part about my job is your daughter Mary is going to call me down the road. I'm assuming she's going to buy today. I'm already painting a picture that Mary's making the phone call, that Mary's saying to Gary, which is me, her agent, understand my mom had a policy with you. We need to use it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever been through a funeral before or a death of a loved one, and you've had to go through that process, you know what I'm talking about. Miss Betty has. Mr. Billy has. They've actually probably had to be the one for their parents or their brother or sister, aunts or uncles, where they made the phone call and said, we need to report that our brother has died. I'm his sister, Mary, and we need to know what we need to do. Most everybody's had a very similar experience like that in the senior market. And they're going to start shaking their head like this. That means they're relating to your story. They feel what you feel. They're hearing it. It's not only hearing it, but they're actually inside their soul. So the daughter Mary's going to give me a call. I'm assuming the sale, but I'm not glad that she has to give me that call, Miss Betty. I'm just glad you had the foresight today to get something in place for her down the road. Goodness gracious, I've already assumed the sale again. I'm assuming I'm going to be the agent. I said, I'm not glad she's got to make that call, Miss Betty. I'm just glad that you had the foresight to get something in place now so she don't have to worry about it down the road. Twice I've assumed the sale, and there's been nothing so far even talked about product, or if she needs it, or she wants it, or she's going to buy it, or nothing. But do you know the worst part about my job, Miss Betty? Another rhetorical question, getting her attention, that creates curiosity. The worst part about my job is I see daughters like yours, like your daughter Mary, having to go around begging, borrowing, and stealing because they didn't have insurance in place or not enough, and they had to do GoFundMe accounts. Have you ever seen that, Miss Betty? Oh yeah. Where? Now I want to hear where she's had it. Oh, well, my brother, 3 years ago, he was a knucklehead. He was 58 years old. He abused his body. I told him not to do it. I told him to get some life insurance. Miss Betty is selling herself on why she needs to do this now because of experience she had with her brother. Miss Betty, I'm so sorry to hear that. I know exactly what you're saying. Listen, Miss Betty, I'm not going to bore you with my story, but real quickly, this is the reason why I do what I do for a living. The tone goes down. It's almost like I'm not in a whisper, but I'm really low key and very serious. Here's why I do what I do for a living. I grew up on a farm in South Carolina. We raised everything. You remember those days, Miss Betty? 80% of the people to 90% go, I do exactly know what you mean. Remember I talked about walking a mile in someone else's shoes, relating to them on their level? Now, not everybody will. Some go, no, never did any farm work. No worries. Did you ever visit your grandparents when you were growing up? Nope, never did. If they didn't, then I can't use that as something I can do. Well, anyway, you remember the days back in the day when people used to live off the land and they had fresh vegetables and they had their own cows and chickens and pigs? Oh, yeah. Ever had some of those fresh? Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Well, you know what my dad said, Miss Betty, when I was growing up? He said, son, if you don't work, you don't eat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, whether you like that, what I just said there or not, that's up to you. That is a biblical principle. I'm in the South. I'm in the southeastern part of the United States. This is the language and the lingo that Miss Betty uses. Okay? Remember, I want to walk her walk, talk her talk. Okay, let's see. Somebody's unmuted. Let's see if I can get that muted somewhere. Okay. Anyway, so I'm talking her language. My dad made me go to church every Sunday, whether I want to go to it or not. That I talk about that for just a second. Oh, yeah, I remember those days. Yes. Well, listen, Miss Betty, when he turned 49, he had an accident on the farm, ended up taking his life. I was a teenage boy. He meant to get around and getting some life insurance, but never did. He left my mom with nothing. He didn't mean to. I'm not angry. It just happened. He left my mom raising all these kids with very little. It was a struggle, really a struggle. When I got big, I told my mom I would do this kind of work for a living. She thought I meant farming. I says, no, ma'am, I'm getting off this farm. I want to go educate the public about getting things in place before it's too late. Miss Baby, this is no longer a job for me. It's a mission.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in a meeting.
It's a crusade. And Miss Baby, don't ask me anything about teaching school, which is what you did for 30 years. But not bragging, if you'll know something about life insurance, I'm an expert in the business. I'm your guy. Matter of fact, even some people refer to me as a doctor of insurance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I realize you don't have to say that. That's not who you are. But I'm going to come across as a confident person right here. You got to figure out what your language is going to be, so you can knock out the competition, so you can knock out the shopping, so you can knock out the kicking the tires, so you can knock out them wanting to sleep on it. You got to knock that out right now. You got to come across as the person that they have confidence in, and you got to come across as you have courage, not ego. No, I don't mean that. I don't want someone that's going to come across like, I'm the greatest in the world and nobody else is, not that. But I'm an expert in my field. I'm great at what I do. Miss Betty, you no longer have to send back any more of these lead cards here. You no longer have to call a TV commercial. You no longer have to have someone pick up the phone and call you about life insurance and you buy it over the phone. You no longer have to have a blue suede shoes person knock on your door and have life insurance. You'll be done today. Why? Because I'm your guy. I'm independent. I'm a broker. I represent many companies. I've been living here for 40 years. I'll be your guy. When everybody else is bringing your daughter, Mary, bills, I'm going to be bringing her a check. I'm going to help her fill out the claim forms. And I'm going to be there to help her get the death certificates in so that it can be taken care of properly. If we can find you a great company that offers affordable rates for this kind of stuff, Miss Betty, so as to protect Miss Mary, would it make more sense to be insured rather than uninsured? Sure it would. Why is that important to you? That type of conviction, that type of confidence is what's going to help take you to the next level, ladies and gentlemen. I hope and I pray for your sake that that's starting to sink in somewhat. And this is what's going to take your closing percentage from 25 to 50, from 50 to 75, from 75 to 90. I've been teaching closing at companies for decades. And one of the reasons why they've asked me to do that is because I've always closed at a high level. One of the reasons why I've closed at a high level, have I learned the importance of listening to some of the greats before me talk about establishing a personal credibility statement early on in your presentation and coming across as a credible doctor, lawyer, banker, accountant, somebody who's important in their life they look up to. And when they say, let me tell you what I recommend, they do it because they are credible in their eyes. Once you get to that point, the rest of the presentation is just formality. It's formality because they've already bought you. And remember, people don't buy a product. They buy you. Okay. All right. That was long, but you needed to hear that, I think. I'm hoping you feel that way. Let me read some things on here. Be prepared, ladies and gentlemen, to help me read a little bit tonight. If you can come off mute when I ask you to come off mute, that will be fantastic and help me read some of this stuff because you will be amazed at what we can do together. All right, I'm trying to find out something here. Okay, good. I'm going to kick off by reading the first paragraph and then Benita, be prepared to read the second one and we'll go from there. Here we go. Establishing personal credibility up front on a sales presentation is crucial in setting the right stage for a positive outcome. In my humble opinion, this is where the sale is made. A trigger goes off in the mind of the client that says, I want to do business with this person. This is where you separate yourself from the competition. Benita?
Unfortunately, what I've found in almost 3 decades of selling insurance is many agents are just peddling product. It seems very few have the best interests of the client at hand. It's as if every Tom, Dick, and Harry are just slinging product and throwing around rates. I do my best to separate myself from that mentality and those actions.
Great. Joe, can you help us next?
Sorry, Gary, I had to find my unmute button.
No worries, brother.
In addition, if an agent is getting the old, I gotta make this bigger. I have glasses, I'm still blind. In addition, if an agent is getting the old, I want to think about it. At the end of most presentations, typically it is a trust issue. This leads back to them not establishing enough credibility in the beginning. I'm a firm believer in what has helped me become a top closer in the industry is having and sharing a strong and impactful credibility statement.
Great. Kayla, are you in a position to read? All right, let's go next. Kevin, are you in a position to read? All right, let's go next. Marilyn, are you in a position to read? Whoa, wow. Okay, Rick, are you in a position to read?
I can.
Thank you, sir.
This is where I walk a mile in my client's shoes. This is where we will make that emotional connection. This is where Miss Betty will see me differently than anyone else that has ever been in her home and presented a product. When done correctly, with passion and sincerity, while being very genuine, the defense mechanisms will come down and Miss Betty's trust radar will go up.
Great. Michael, are you in a position to read?
Yes, let's see here.
Thank you.
During the connectivity step, on the right paragraph here. During the connectivity step, my body language was laid back, relaxed and low key. Now for the credibility step. I will sit up straight, look Miss Betty in the eyes, and command a presence. I want Miss Betty to take advice from me and see me as she would her doctor, attorney, banker, and any other professional she trusts with important decisions in her life.
Great, thank you. George, are you in a position to read?
Yes,
All right, please.
it's up to me to create that professional atmosphere. I don't have a plaque on the wall as does the doctor when she goes to see him, her, that establish instant credibility. I create that plaque through visuals, mental pictures, tones, body language, demeanor, and attitudes.
Excellent, thank you. Now I will demonstrate my personal credibility statement. Notice in my words, I will tell an emotional story, yet I'll be very assumptive. I will assume she's going to buy my product from the start. This is very powerful when looking someone straight in the eyes. Do not be fidgeting, shuffling papers, or flicking your pen. Be firm, be strong, and control your nervous energy. I have to admit, when I first started doing this years and years ago, I was nervous and I was fidgeting. And I think I was tapping my foot and doing everything else that you can think of. Because what I was doing was something that was a little uncomfortable for me at first. And that was looking them straight in the eyes and creating that type of credibility, because I saw myself as just a typical salesperson just selling something to make money. And honestly, in the beginning, a lot of that was true. I mean, I was struggling salesperson. I was feeding a bunch of kids. dude, when someone's talking about you need to read body language and demeanors and attitudes and tones, I'm like, I just want to make a sale and make some money and put some food on the table. So it's one of those cart before the horse kind of things. And everything I kept reading and listening to from the greats was, yeah, if you want to be able to make the kind of money you want and make the kind of sales you want and keep the business on the books and establish branding yourself and get repeat business, then learn to do it right up front. He says, the things I was learning was the reason why people get in and out of sales so quickly, because they are in it just for the money to make a sale and not to make a client, build relationships and brand themselves and get repeat business. So I had to switch my mental thinking, my mindset of what I was doing. I had to quit looking at this as short term and look at long term. The long term was I wanted to keep these people as clients forever. I didn't want anyone to replace my business. I wanted to think of me every time they thought about buying insurance. And also when they want to refer their kids and neighbors and friends and family, and then to repeat and do this over and over and over. So I said to myself, yep, I see what's going on now. I'm going through this thing like wham, bam, thinking, man. I'm just trying to get through the presentation, get down to the end, show the numbers, and go to my next appointment. So therefore, I treated it lightly and loosely, and so did the client. They treated me lightly and loosely. So when someone else called them or showed up, they thought, that's no big deal. That guy, I haven't heard from him. And he was just in and out of here in about 20, 30 minutes. And I don't even barely remember his name. He didn't make any impact on me. I wasn't really impressed. I mean, I am looking for insurance, so I just bought something. But shoot, if somebody else has got something better or a little bit different, I'll take a look at it. I wanted to knock out that, and I wasn't doing it. So I was losing business as fast as I was putting in the front door. So the rest of this is just my script I gave you tonight. And if those of you who've seen my videos realize this is exactly what I do, what I've been teaching you. And what time is that? 8:23. We'll go over a little bit of this and I'll show you what I mean here. I got it written out. Miss Betty began by saying, I'm licensed by the state. These programs I'm about to share are approved by the state. I have dedicated, there's that impact word, my life to help you get things in place, substantive, before it's too late. Urgency. Remember the reason why people don't buy? They're in no hurry. We're all middle of the road thinkers. We don't want it too hot or too cold. We'll be in the middle. I've got to get Mr. Billy and Miss Betty out of the comfort zone. I got to get them a little bit uncomfortable. I got to create a sense of urgency. I've committed, there's an impact word, my life over the past 30 years. If you're new, you don't have to give a time frame, and helping folks like you. When I was new, I have committed my life to helping people get things in place before it's too late. I didn't put a time frame on it. To take that burden off your children, make it personal. Children, I use the name of the child that I learned in my connectivity stage before the good man above calls you home. Urgency. Recognizing many of these clients, especially in the Southeast, if you live in a different part of the country, maybe a little bit different, but I know the Southeast and the South of this country. Many are God-fearing people. So whether you believe in God or like God or whatever, I'm going to tell you, many do here. It's the Bible Belt. And Miss Betty, I hope you live to be 100. Here we go. Many will say, I claim that. You're also painting the picture, living a long life and needing more insurance. But unfortunately, we don't know what tomorrow brings. Creating urgency. We never know when our number will be called, do we? Rhetorical. You're establishing the need to get it done now. These are all important phrases and phases of your presentation. Do you know the best part about my job? Here's that rhetorical question. The best part of my job is your daughter, son or daughter. Use their names here if you can. Make it more personal and powerful. Will call me down the road. Mentally, they picture this happening and say, we need to use this policy. I'm already assuming she's buying now. Now, don't get me wrong, Miss Betty. I'm not glad they have to use this policy. I'm just glad you love them so much and have something in place for them, something painting the picture down the road. These are all powerful impact words, phrases, visualizations, getting the senses involved ahead of time. Do you know the worst part about my job, Miss Betty? Rhetorical. The worst part of my job is when I see your children use a name on the streets, have them go around doing the BBS program, beg, borrowing, and stealing, to collect enough money to put you away properly. You wouldn't want that to happen, would you? Shaking your head, no. With that in mind, Ms. Bailey, explain to you why in this business and why do I do for a living. This is where you're going to do an impactful story on you. Did you have an aunt or an uncle pass away without enough coverage? Did you have a good friend? Did you have a child? Did you have parents? Where is your personal story that shows that you can relate to Miss Betty? Because she's got a story and she's going to share it with you. I won't go through my whole story again, but I wrote out my story, as I've shared with you many times before. And I tell that story in impactful ways using nodding my head, proper body language, proper tones, voice inflections. I use rhetorical questions. I do all of these things through this process. And here's the power punch. You want to end it with the power punch. This is no longer a job for me, Miss Betty. Can you look someone in the eye and say that, and they feel that you are committed to this and you're going to be there for their family at claim time? That's what you're trying to get across here. I want to tell you right now, most of the insurance agents out there do not come across like that. They come across as, so let's see here, nice kids on the wall, Miss Betty. Oh, you caught that fish one day, and oh, I love your flag outside. Your flower garden looks good. All right, let's get down to business, Miss Betty. Now, what's the reason why you sent this card in today? Oh, you're looking for additional insurance? No worries. What medicines do you take? Okay, got you. And you're how old? All right, you don't smoke? All right, well, here's some rates for you, Miss Betty. 1, 2, or 3. Which one works best for you? The middle one? Okay, let me go and get you signed up right now. You pay us next month. We'll all be good. There you go. I'm being a little bit facetious. I'm not far from it. And that's why it doesn't stay on the books. And they never hear from that person again. I'm not going to do that. That's a waste of my time, your time, everybody's time. You're going to make an impact. Oh, yes, it takes a little bit longer with this presentation. I get it. But you will keep it on the books and you will brand yourself. And because they never forget how you made them feel through this credibility statement, next month, next year, when something comes across their mind about buying insurance, they're going to think of you. They're going to think of you. Had someone call me, they hadn't seen her in 5 years. I've sent her birthday cards. I've sent her holiday cards. I've sent her different things like that in the mail through the years, but I haven't heard from her personally in 5 years. She calls and says, you know what? I'm getting older. And you know what you said before about inflation and the cost of things? I'm realizing I need some more insurance. She thought of me. How did you remember me, Miss Betty? Because Gary does things that brands himself. That's going to make her remember me. For years, I've handed out coffee mugs with my name and number on them. You don't have to do that. You can do pens and magnets and letter openers, and you can do many things. But how was your client going to remember you? That business card is probably long gone after a few months, weeks. But what are you going to leave behind that she'll remember you? This is what I'm talking about right here. This is no longer a job for me. A job is when an agent comes by and does the wham bam, thank you, ma'am, just trying to make a paycheck, check out and check out the job and what they're doing and go to sleep for the evening. Not me. This is a mission, Miss Betty, and a crusade. I dedicated my life to helping folks get things in place so your children won't have to do the BBS program. You see that? You feel that? You sense that? Does that make sense? How about this? And here is a nail in the coffin, I call it, or whatever you want to call it. I just gave you a power punch close right there for her to buy you. Now watch this. I'm going to knock out all my competition. Now, Miss Betty, you'll never have to send one of these cards back in the mail again. That's pretty audacious. What? Who are you to make a statement like that? That you don't have to send another card back in like this. Yep, Miss Betty, you don't have to send another card back in like this again. You hold it up. The TV's on, or call another TV commercial about life insurance again. I'm your insurance man now and forever. Something, I'll save you a lot of headache, heartache, and time. I've lived locally and been here for, when I put this go, it's 37 years. Now it's 40. I'll be here when you need me, when time arrives down the road or years down the road. When it comes claim time, I'll be here for your sons and daughters to help them fill out the claim form, submit the death certificate, and console them in a time of grief. While everybody else is bringing them bills, I'll be bringing them a check. There you go. That's your personal credibility statement. When delivered with conviction and passion while being genuine and sincere, you will feel and you will see Miss Betty's body language, demeanor, and attitude change and defenses drop. They will drop and separate yourself from all other agents in the field. I can promise you no one else establishes this type of personal credibility. You're now very credible in Miss Betty's eyes. Your trust gauge is off the charts. You are now in position to move forward in a very positive way. That's your credibility statement. I want everybody on here to do me a favor, to work on their personal credibility statement. Take some time. When you're sitting at home at night and doing nothing but watching TV, turn it off. Spend 20, 30 minutes on it. Tomorrow night, do the same thing. Over the weekend, do the same thing. Fine tune what your story is going to be. Give me a reason why I should buy you. Not because you represent Mutual of Omaha. That's not a reason to buy you. Don't give me a reason because my rates are the best. Somebody else could represent another company next week and be $5, $10 cheaper. Give me a reason that if your prices are more and if you represent an insurance company I've never heard of, I would still want it, I would still buy it, and I would still keep it because I bought you. Give me that reason. Can you put that down on paper? Can you memorize that? Can you say that? Can you do it with passion, with sincerity, being very genuine? Can you do it? I believe you can, because I've been teaching this for a long time. Many people have, and it changes their life. Or before we sign off tonight, you can unmute yourself if you got questions you want to ask me. There's certain things that weren't clear or that you want to make a comment on. You're welcome to do it as well. Or if you want to tap it, if you want to type it into the chat line, you can do that as well. All right, let's do questions, comments, thoughts, anything that's not clear that you want to share or you want to ask or that you want to run by me at this time. You've got the doctor here tonight who's solving your insurance woes and problems and can bring remedies to your heartaches and headaches and pains.
I have a quick question, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with this. It's kind of like an objection when it comes to asking for referrals. Have you ever ran across someone saying that they needed to speak to the other person before they give out their information? They don't want to give out their information without speaking to them first.
Yes, I have heard of that. Because I used to get that quite a bit myself. And so just like the presentation, what I would do, Benita, is be very assumptive with it, like I am with my presentation for the sale. So what I do is I have a little card. I don't have it here near me. It has 5 slots typed up. And I said to Miss Betty during the warm down, how do you feel about what we did? Does it feel great? Do you feel like I have? Oh yeah, I feel like you did fantastic. Would you recommend that I would, go out there and help other people? Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, here's what I need you to do. And so I don't ask her, I'm telling her in a polite way. I got a little $5 Walmart gift card here with you, Miss Betty, for your time and also for your efforts. I want you to put down here for me 3 names of people I can share my story with. My head is down. I'm not looking her in the eyes anymore. It's very assumptive. So I don't ask her, does she know anyone? Can you think of anyone? Blah, blah, blah. I just assume it. And Miss Betty, here's this little form here. I got a little $5 Walmart gift card here for you for your time. I want you to put down 3 names of people I can share my story with. You don't know if they're going to buy or not, or if they're going to need it or not. None of that, Miss Betty. I just need 3 names of people I can share my story with that I might be able to help them with. And we can start here with your children, but also with your brothers and sisters, your siblings, and then also some neighbors. So let me give you this pen here, Miss Betty. And here's this form. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to lay the pen down, turn the form around. And I got a little bit more paperwork. You need to finish up, Miss Betty. If you'll go ahead and do that, I got this little $5 Walmart gift card for you. It's all very assumptive, just like you do your presentation. You got to have the pen ready. You got to have the note card ready with 3 to 5 slots. And you've got to assume it just like I did there. Now, Miss Betty, if she kind of hesitates, or if she can't think of anyone, because my head's down, I'm just looking here, I'm busy. I'm not looking her in the eyes now, and I'm waiting for her to give me an objection or do something. Well, I'm not sure about anyone right now, or I'm not sure, I'd like to check with them first or something like that. No worries, Miss Betty, I'll give you plenty of time to do that. All you're doing right now is trying to earn the $5 Walmart gift card, because of each one of these people who decide to take advantage of the program, you get an extra $20 Walmart gift card once they make their first payment on the plan. So go ahead right now and just earn your $5, and I can help you earn an extra 20, some extra Christmas money, something like that, for down the road if they decide to take advantage of the program. But right now, you're just putting down names. I'll give you a chance to call them ahead of time. All right? All right, go back to work. Let me finish this, Miss Betty, while you're doing that. It's all assumptive, and you got to make yourself go through that process. Because if you look at it, can you think of some names of people, Miss Betty, I can tell, I can help out, or can you think of some people and think, well, let me get back with you, or let me check with them first? Have a plan and be very assumptive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question, buddy. Great question. And here's what's going to happen when Miss Betty puts those 3 names down. This was going to be great. Now, Miss Betty, listen, before I contact any of these people, I want you to speak with them first. Matter of fact, of those 3 people that's on this list right now, which one is retired and is usually home during the day? Oh, your sister, the middle one? Okay, good. What I want you to do while I'm here, I want you to go ahead and give her a quick call. Tell her that I came by to see you and I helped you out. I'm a nice guy. Don't lie or anything. He's talking about a nice guy. I'd like to come by and see her today and bring her some information, no obligation. You can go ahead and do that now while I'm here, and I'll see if she's home. I'll go see her next. And that's how you keep yourself busy during the day, seeing referrals, by getting Miss Betty to call the people right then, start the process if they're retired. Great question. All right, who else has got a question? It can be on credibility. It can be on creating connectivity. It can be on your market. It can be on any challenges you're having in the field right now as far as objections or problems in the field. Andrea typed up something really nice. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, Andrea, and I hope it really works for you and put it in practice. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, we are complete and we are done here tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Hopefully this is inspiring, motivating, but most importantly, it was things that you sink your teeth in to help you get better in what you're doing every day out there in the field. This is the Psychology of the Sale. I am Gary Keith, your host, the doctor of insurance. Until we meet again, the same time, same station next week. Good luck and good selling.
Thanks, it was great.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gary.
Thank you.